Chapter 81. The Queen of Vengeance. After some time. Wait, you're saying you're all devils? Tendo Kizara looked completely stunned. After listening to Lynn's detailed explanation, she felt even more confused. This had to be a joke, right? Yuuko. The moment Lynn spoke, Kano Yuuko obediently revealed her wings. Kizara's eyes widened in shock. Wings? She stammered, taking a step back. Was this real? Maybe she was just a cursed child? No, that didn't make sense. Yuuko was clearly older than 15, and besides, she didn't have red eyes. Kizara took several deep breaths, forcing herself to calm down. All right, let's just assume you really are devils. She narrowed her eyes at Lynn. Then what's your goal? She felt that these devils had some kind of ulterior motive. After all, devils weren't exactly known for being good-hearted beings. She stared at Lynn with a serious expression. Lynn paused for a moment before answering, saving the cursed children. Saving the cursed children? Kizara blinked in confusion. That doesn't sound like something a devil would do. But before she could process it, and wiping out humanity along the way. Kizara's entire body tensed, her pupils shrinking. I knew it. He really is a devil. His goal was to destroy humanity. Wait. Suddenly, Kizara's expression changed as she realized something. She urgently asked, if you're destroying humanity, then that includes Tendo Kikunajo, right? Lynn gave her a blank stare. Isn't that obvious? Why would he destroy humanity and leave Kikunajo, of all people, alive? But the fact that this was her first concern after hearing destroy humanity was interesting. Kizara's face lit up with excitement. Then I'm in. Destroying humanity? That's exactly what a devil should be doing. After all, they're called devils for a reason. Of course, the important thing for Kizara was that the Tendo family was included in that destruction. If she could get her revenge, then who cared if humanity was wiped out? What did the lives of humans have to do with her? Besides, according to Lynn, once she joined his Familia, she'd be a devil too. That meant she wouldn't even be human anymore. And honestly, humanity deserved to be destroyed. A twisted smile stretched across Kizara's face as she grabbed Lynn's hands tightly. Come on, turn me into a devil already. Devils are the best. Yuuko quietly floated backward at the sight of Kizara's dark transformation. She muttered under her breath, Saeko, I think we found someone just like you. Busujima Saeko. She tilted her head. Huh, but I'm pretty gentle, aren't I? Yuuko. Lynn glanced at Kizara, who was fully consumed by her obsession with revenge. She was willing to become a devil if it meant taking down her enemies. A woman willing to do anything, no matter how ruthless. He liked that. All right, then. Take off your clothes. Kizara's twisted expression froze. The single sentence snapped her out of her dark thoughts instantly. She stared at him suspiciously. Are you really a reasonable devil? What does stripping have to do with joining a Familia? Lynn casually explained the reincarnation ritual and the blessing system. Kizara hesitated, then mumbled under her breath. If you're messing with me, you're dead meat. Despite everything, a part of her still doubted whether Lynn was truly a devil. But her thirst for revenge had clouded her judgment. As long as there was even the slightest chance, she had to take it. Pain, destruction, even the end of humanity itself, none of it mattered. As long as she could get her revenge, she was willing to give everything to a devil. With her mind made up, Kizara took a deep breath. She slowly removed her Miwa Girls Academy uniform. Even though she was mentally prepared, when she stood exposed in front of Lynn, her face flushed red. Out of instinct, she tightly covered her chest. Turn around. Taking a deep breath, Kizara turned her back to Lynn, revealing her smooth, bare skin. A moment later, she felt something press against her spine. It was the devil's piece. Her body trembled slightly as she braced herself. Suddenly, a surge of heat flooded her body. The energy flowed through her veins, rapidly reshaping her from the inside out. At that moment, she understood. So devils really did exist, and this power was real. Kizara couldn't suppress the moan that escaped her lips. Her body suddenly felt light. The years of pain and illness she had endured vanished in an instant. Whoosh. Wings and a tail sprouted from her back, the undeniable proof of her transformation. At that moment, Kizara felt better than she ever had in her life. The birth of a special devil. With this power, getting revenge would be easy. Ding. You have obtained the Familia member, Tendo Kizara. Ding. Your Familia member, Tendo Kizara, has reincarnated as a special devil. Ding. You have obtained a new skill. A glowing status screen appeared on Kizara's back. Lynn shifted his gaze to examine it. Tendo Kizara. Rank, mid-class devil. Race, devil. Master, Lynn Valifer. Stats, strength, I0. Agility, I0. Endurance, I0. Magic, I0. Unique skills, Tendo Sword Style, Azure Estate, and Vengeful Devil. Tendo Sword Style. Tendo Sword Drawing Style. Enhanced Strength Growth. Enhanced Agility Growth. Azure Estate. Activating this grants the Azure State, enhancing all attributes. Vengeful Devil. Vengeance marks a target as an enemy, placing them in the hatred faction. Queen of Vengeance deals extra damage to marked enemies. Damage increases the higher the hatred value. Devilization, Final Form, Sinful Rebirth. Lynn was surprised. This was the longest status log he had ever seen from a reincarnated Familia member. Straight to mid-class devil? Kizara, you've got serious potential. Kizara's eyes lit up. Oh, are you saying I'm strong? Very strong. Lynn nodded without hesitation. Just looking at her skill list, it was clear how powerful she was. Among his current Familia, even the most talented member, Saeko, had started as a low-class devil. But Kizara? She had skipped straight to mid-class. That alone proved how terrifyingly capable she was. Lynn copied down her status information for record-keeping. Meanwhile, Kizara finished dressing and took a look at her new stats. Seeing her own blessing log, she gave a satisfied nod. But when her eyes landed on Vengeful Devil, they practically sparkled like light bulbs. This skill, this is literally made for me. She lived for revenge. A skill that enhanced her power against her enemies? Absolutely perfect. A dark gleam flashed in her eyes. Her fingers gripped Lynn's shoulders firmly, almost a little too hard. Lynn-sama, when are we starting the destruction of humanity plan? She was itching to cut Tendo Kikunajo and the rest of this rotten. Chapter 82. Busy saving Lolis. No rush. The Familia's top priority is saving the cursed children. Destroying humanity is just a side bonus. Lynn patted Tendo Kizara's head, bringing her back to her senses from her darkened state. She should be like this because of her Azure state. Lynn glanced at his skill panel and noticed a few new additions. Maybe I should test them out sometime. Vengeance Mark and Queen of Vengeance were pretty interesting. TSK. This damn system didn't change it to King of Vengeance for me. Whatever, no one could see the system panel anyway. Kizara, feeling the warmth of his hand on her head, gradually regained her composure. No rush. Well, if Lynn said no rush, then there was no rush. She understood her place very well. That master title in the Familia wasn't just for show. Besides, with the power Lynn had granted her, it was more than enough for her revenge. She just needed to endure for a while longer. Tendo Kizara took a deep breath. Was it because I had become a devil? It actually feels pretty nice. That insane rage she used to struggle with it felt like she could control it now. The constant, maddening whispers in her head had faded away. It was peaceful. She turned to look at Lynn, a strange emotion flashing through her eyes. Was it because she had become his Familia member? Was that why it suddenly felt so easy? I need to repay him. Tendo Kizara's attitude became firm, her expression one of complete determination. She was ready to bleed and sweat for the Familia. Lynn, is there anything I can do? Her current state was unbelievably good. No more mental suffering. Even her revenge target was now within reach. This was the most relaxed she had ever felt, all because she had become part of Lynn's Familia. But she couldn't just accept that without doing anything in return. Please, give me orders. Lynn wasn't the type to hold back when it came to his Familia. If she was part of his team, she would be put to use. And luckily, Tendo Kizara's status as the president of Tendo Civil Corporation was extremely useful. He already had a plan in mind. The cursed children in the outer area, it was only a matter of time before they were all taken in. Now, it was time to focus on the ones inside the other areas. Lynn turned to Kizara. First, have Saeko and the others register as civil officers through your company. Moving around will be much easier with official police IDs. Who knows? They might even be able to snatch a few cursed children being trained by the government or ISO. As for going through Seitenshi, Lynn's eyelid twitched. When he watched the anime, he didn't think much of it, at least on the surface. She had some presence. But in reality, she was a useless ruler. The only real contribution she could make to Lynn was giving him this shelter. And that was probably the best she could do. After giving Kizara a rundown of his Familia members and their current mission, Saeko, bring me a phone. Lynn handed Kizara a special phone that could connect to the main world's network. And just like that, she was added to the group chat. Ding! The crazy Tendo has joined the chat. Tendo Kizara stared at the group name, her face heating up slightly, but she pretended not to notice and quickly scanned the member list instead. Then she saw the name Seitenshi. Her eyes went blank for a second. Then she turned to look at Lynn, completely dumbfounded. Seitenshi-sama is really your servant? Lynn shrugged. Told you. You just didn't believe me. Tendo Kizara opened her mouth, but for once, she had no idea what to say. Tokyo's highest ruler was actually someone else's servant. Who the hell would believe something like that? Seitenshi-sama has betrayed humanity before me. Tendo Kizara's brain exploded with pure disbelief. This was even more shocking for her than meeting a devil. By the way, Lynn added casually, she's the first person from your world that I reincarnated as a devil. Oh, and she was the one who summoned me here in the first place. Tendo Kizara, what? Lynn's Familia group chat. The crazy Tendo. At Seitenshi, so is you who brought a devil into this world. Seitenshi. A few days later, Lynn's Familia group chat. Kasumigakaka Utaha. At Sigma Man, Yukino Shida, Yukino's big sister, is looking for you. The girl who sees, huh? Names can be changed. Kasumigakaka Utaha. Yep. Main World Shuchian Academy. Supernatural Research Club. Kasumigakaka Utaha narrowed her eyes slightly as she studied the mature woman in front of her. This woman, she was definitely here because of Yukino Shida Yukino. So, what did your club president say? Yukino Shida Haruno smiled politely. She had rushed over the moment she found some free time only to discover that the club president wasn't even here. Was he out dealing with a supernatural case? Her curiosity was piqued. Ding. Sigma Man, busy. Utaha put her phone away and smiled. Sorry, our club president is currently busy saving Lolis. Haruno's expression twitched. Saving Lolis? Did some kid get caught up in a supernatural incident? Ever since she learned about the supernatural, she couldn't help but connect everything to it. Taking a deep breath, she smiled again. Maybe I can help? Would you like to talk over coffee? Utaha's smile remained unchanged. What a coincidence. I also have to go save Lolis. Haruno's smile froze. Again with the Lolis? Was she just making up excuses to get rid of her? Before she could say anything, Utaha ignored her completely and pushed open the door to the club. Her Devil's Grimoire was going to be useful. Soon she couldn't afford to waste time on small talk and delay her master's plans. Black Bullet World. Lynn put down his phone. Yukino? Haruno? Whatever. He didn't have time to deal with them right now. It was nothing urgent anyway. Over the past few days, his newly reincarnated devil-cursed children had been gathering intel. And the results were astonishing. 4,365 cursed children in just one district. And there were dozens of these districts in just the Tokyo area. If this pattern held, that meant there were roughly 200,000 cursed children in Tokyo alone. Beyond Tokyo, there were still 4 other major regions in Japan: Sapporo, Sendai, Osaka, and Hakata. Roughly estimating, that meant Japan had over 1 million Lolis. Worldwide, Lynn shook his head. No point thinking that far ahead yet. For now, he needed to gather all the cursed children in Tokyo first. With 200,000 of them, he should be able to power up significantly. Once his strength increased, expanding to other areas would be much easier. Inside the shelter, a flash of brilliant white light illuminated the area. Kasumigakaka, Utaha stepped through the dimensional gate. Her eyes flickered as she stared at Lynn's lips. Almost instinctively, she licked her own lips. Then her face flushed slightly. "Master, I'm ready." Chapter 83. Another World Shelter. Using the Devil's Grimoire, they had just teleported another batch of cursed children. Utaha let out a small breath, slightly panting. She gazed at Lynn with sultry eyes. "Master!" Magic replenishment. Lynn didn't hesitate to reward her. Honestly, he could have handled the teleportation of all 4,000 cursed children by himself. However, given how scattered they were, it would have taken considerably more time. By splitting up, he and Utaha improved efficiency. Whenever Utaha was almost drained, she would take a break at the shelter and wait for Lynn to replenish her magic. After repeating the process multiple times, Utaha was starting to feel the pressure. Not physically, not even in terms of magic, but mentally. She was exhausted. Lynn noticed this, of course. After restoring her magic, he spoke up. "All right, Utaha, leave the rest to me. It would take a bit longer, but that wasn't a big deal." "No," Utaha shook her head firmly. "I could still keep going." Lynn frowned slightly. "I don't need you to push yourself." He never wanted his Familia to suffer. Even so, Utaha shook her head again. "I really can. It's just—" She hesitated, pressing her lips together as if struggling with something. Lynn frowned, unsure of what she was trying to say. Finally, Utaha bit her lower lip, leaned into his chest, and tilted her chin up. A soft, misty breath escaped her lips. "Master, can you increase the dosage?" "Increase the dosage?" Lynn narrowed his eyes at her. That's when he noticed her normally pale, elegant neck was flushed red. "Phew!" Utaha pulled away slightly, her crimson eyes shimmering with a delicate mist. With a fresh injection of energy, her spirit was completely revitalized. Lynn watched her with uncertainty. It shouldn't have any effect on restoring mental fatigue. But Lynn glanced at Utaha's energized state and sighed, shaking his head. "Fine. If it works, it works." Besides, there were plenty of bodily fluids with a more potent effect than his saliva. If it came down to it, he could just give her a stronger dose. He can even use the milk mode for her. She'd probably be thrilled. They worked late into the night. At long last, the teleportation of all 4,000 cursed children was complete. Utaha wiped the sweat from her forehead, finally letting out a sigh of relief. Then, pressing her fingers against her temple, she winced. Her headache was splitting. As expected, she had pushed herself too hard. Still, when she saw Lynn's satisfied smile, she couldn't help but smile back. It was all worth it. Lynn praised her. "Thanks to you, Utaha. Otherwise, I might have been at this until sunrise." Utaha shook her head, forcing a weak smile. Yeah, she had definitely overdone it. She needs a high-quality energy injection. Seeing her condition, Lynn thought for a moment before speaking. "I'll give you a reward tonight." "A reward?" Utaha's eyes lit up instantly. Her headache? Gone. Her exhaustion? Non-existent. Her eyes practically sparkled like stars as she eagerly asked, "Any reward I want?" Lynn gave her a strange look. Why did it feel like she just got a full recovery with a single sentence? He nodded, curious about what she had in mind. Of course, he'd be giving her an energy injection either way, but if she wanted something specific, he wasn't going to be stingy. Hearing his response, Utaha's face instantly turned a shade of deep red. She hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "Master, tonight, can you rest at our home?" Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and she avoided his gaze. "Our home?" Lynn paused, thinking for a moment. He had quite a few homes. Which one was she referring to? That one. Utaha's voice was barely above a whisper. "Just the one that belongs to only the two of us." Lynn blinked, then looked at her oddly. Wasn't that his personal home? The one he had painstakingly built up from scratch? Sure, it was a little small compared to his other residences, but it held sentimental value. And yet, with just one sentence, Utaha had somehow claimed half of it for herself. This sneaky little minx. Still, Lynn wasn't the type to be oblivious. He nodded and agreed without hesitation. Might as well see what kind of scheme Utaha was plotting this time. Seeing him agree, Utaha's face lit up with joy then. Almost immediately, she started panicking. Then, I'll head back first. She bolted out of the Black Bullet world in a hurry. That bunny girl outfit she bought the other day, it had to be put to good use. Watching her flustered retreat, Busujima Seiko chuckled softly. Master has quite a few women now. If we don't fight for opportunities, we won't get any. She absent-mindedly touched her lower abdomen. Perhaps it was time to bear Master's devil child. Meanwhile, back at the shelter, over 4,000 cursed children were packed into the space. Nervousness was evident on their faces, their eyes filled with uncertainty and fear. However, with the devil Lolas comforting them, they managed to stay calm. For now, they simply stood quietly, waiting for further arrangements. What a sight! Tendo Kizara, another member of Lynn's Familia, had come to see the situation for herself. Seeing the sheer number of children, she couldn't help but let out a sigh of awe. Lynn, on the other hand, felt a headache coming on. At the time, he had focused solely on saving the cursed children, but now that the reality of the situation was setting in, gathering them was just step one. The real challenges lay ahead, converting them into Familia members, providing housing, food, clothes, education. And most immediately, where the hell was he going to fit all of them? The shelter was way too small for this. Seiko, Lynn called out. Tomorrow, go to the Apocalypse World, HOTD, and see if there's a place big enough to house tens of thousands of people. Then, clear it out. Yes, Master, Seiko responded without hesitation. Lynn went into deep thought. A space for tens of thousands should be enough for now. Besides, zombies weren't much of a threat, especially to the Lolas who had been reincarnated as devils. Their safety wouldn't be a problem. For now, though, there was no need to rush things. They'd start the reincarnation process tomorrow. After an exhausting day, both physically and mentally, everyone needed rest. The cursed children, in particular, had been through a roller coaster of emotions, fear, anxiety, uncertainty. It had drained them. Not to mention, it was late. Most of the kids were already struggling to keep their eyes open. They could deal with everything else tomorrow. Main world. Lynn returned home. Chapter 84. The Confused ISO Workers. Lynn, he silently backed out of the room, double-checked the door sign, and confirmed this was indeed Utaha's bedroom. Lynn turned his gaze toward the bed, where a pair of silky black-stockinged legs stretched out before him. His eyes traveled upward. Utaha's hips were slightly raised, and at the back, a small, fluffy, white tail twitched slightly like a bunny's. Utaha had unleashed her nasty devil tail and combined it with a bunny custom to make the amazing new bunny tail. Lynn's expression turned a little complicated. As if sensing his stare, Utaha's perky backside gave a tiny, involuntary shudder. Phew! Lynn let out a breath and, without hesitation, snapped the door shut behind him. If she was being this considerate, there was no reason to refuse. Smack! He couldn't help himself. His hand came down hard. A sharp, crisp sound echoed through the room. Utaha buried her face into the pillow, muffling a low whimper. Her face was burning hot. Lynn smirked. Utaha, are you ready for your reward? Utaha lifted her head slightly, breathing shakily. Her dazed eyes shimmered as she murmured, Master, I'm yours today. Lynn paused for a second, then chuckled. Utaha, prepare for your glorious evolution. Lynn chose to activate his devil healing milk mode. Energy injection activated. Dosage increased. Finally, after multiple doses, Utaha was exhausted and defeated. The next morning, Utaha's eyes snapped open, her face flushing red. Master, my tail. Lynn gently pinched the tip of her tail. A sharp jolt shot through her entire body. Her legs twitched as if she had been electrocuted. Lynn leaned in close, his breath tickling her ear. Utaha, last night really helped me see a new side of you. Utaha's gaze darted away. She had been a little too bold last night. But the emotions she had been holding back for so long, she just couldn't suppress them anymore. Smack! Lynn released her tail, giving a light tap. Utaha, your reward isn't over yet. Wait. Utaha's eyes widened in panic. I can't take any more. Overflow detected. Shuchian Academy. Teacher's office. Minami and Natsuki stamped another leave request without even looking up. So, it's you delivering his excuse this time? Yatsuya Miko stood awkwardly, shifting her weight from foot to foot. She let out a nervous laugh, her toes subconsciously digging into the floor. Awaya, lowering her head, she muttered softly, It's also for second-year student Kasankaka, Yuta-senpai. Natsuki's hand froze mid-stamp. A brief silence. Then she scoffed coldly. TCH, that damn womanizing devil. Black Bullet World, afternoon. Sheena Mahiru rested her chin on her hand, staring blankly at the cursed children playing in the distance. But her mind was somewhere else entirely. She mumbled softly, Lynn still hasn't come back yet. Hovering in midair, a certain ghost girl squirmed restlessly, her cheeks flushed a suspicious shade of pink. So lucky. I want a reward too, muttered Kano Yuuko, her ghostly form twisting in anticipation. Hearing that, Mahiru glanced up at her. This ghost was also a serious competitor. She had zero sense of personal space and was constantly throwing herself at Lynn. A woman who truly embodied the first rule of Familia, complete devotion to their master. Finally, an hour later, Lynn and Utaha stepped through the portal. Utaha clung tightly to Lynn's arm, her chin slightly raised, eyes darting sideways as if she just so happened to glance at Mahiru and the others. The moment Lynn appeared, Yuuko clung to him without hesitation. Utaha narrowed her eyes at Yuuko's behavior, but her imposing aura instantly vanished. She reached out, ready to pry the clingy ghost off. You desperate old virgin. Don't distract Master from important business. Important business? Sheena Mahiru glanced at the time and twitched slightly. 5 p.m. And you're talking about not wasting time? From last night until now, that was nearly an entire day. She couldn't help but let her thoughts wander. Just what exactly had Utaha been doing all this time? Yatsuya Miko curled up in a corner. I'm not here. You can't see me. I don't exist. Hey, Miko, come grind levels with me. Miko froze, wanting to cry but having no tears left. Hana, could you at least acknowledge the mood in the room? While the Familia members argued, Lynn finally began the reincarnation ceremony for the cursed children. Meanwhile, outer area. A large truck drove into the outskirts of the city. Its bright ISO logo stood out clearly. The truck rumbled to a stop near a sewer entrance. Several workers in uniforms climbed out, their faces twisted with disgust. Behind them, a muscular man stepped down, dragging along a blank-faced young girl. The man barked, "Hurry up and grab a few of them, so we can report back." Clang! One of the workers roughly pried open the sewer grate, then shouted down into the darkness. "Hey, you little brats, get your asses up here. We're taking you to enjoy life." Ha! The others laughed coldly. Enjoy life? In reality, it meant cruel training, forcing them to become Tolstoi, protecting those who paid for their lives. But really, what greater honor could those freaks ask for? Their sneers deepened. This was the only fate that monsters like them deserved. Even the burly man holding the girl looked at her with undisguised contempt. The little girl bit her lip, her heart filled with silent despair. But as time passed, no one emerged from the sewer. The workers frowned. The hell? You expect me to go down there myself? One of them peered into the filthy tunnel, his face twisted with disgust. TCH, those brats are really pushing their luck. Grumbling, one of the men climbed down. A few seconds later, silence. Then he scrambled back up, his face pale. They're gone. The group exchanged confused glances. Did they move locations? One of them muttered, brows furrowed. The ISO, the international organization in charge of managing the cursed children, knew the exact locations of all hideouts in the outer district. Whenever they needed more tools, they would just round them up like cattle. But today their usual prey had vanished. Damn it, just our luck. Move to the next location. Hours later, midnight, the entire outer area had been thoroughly searched. Yet aside from Gastria monsters, there wasn't a single cursed child in sight. Even after checking every known hideout, they found nothing. The ISO workers stood in the empty ruins, staring at the deserted streets in disbelief. Where the hell did all the cursed children go? Chapter 85, The New Shelter. By the time the night deepened, Lynn had finally completed the reincarnation of over 4,000 cursed children into his Familia. Even for him, it was a relief to be done with the process. Among them, the last girl to be reincarnated seemed a little familiar. A character from the original story? He placed his hand on her head. Senju looked up, her face emotionless. Thank you, Lord Lynn, for granting me a new life. Though her words were filled with gratitude, her tone was empty. No joy, no sadness, just pure indifference. Lynn lowered his gaze, locking eyes with Ko's lifeless stare. Even though she had become a devil, and even though the Gastria virus inside her had been erased, there was still no emotion on her face. She should be happy, right? His gaze shifted down, scanning her status. Senju Ko. Rank, low-class devil. Race, devil. Master, Lynn Valifer. Stats, strength, I0. Agility, I0. Endurance, I0. Magic, I0. Unique skills, Gastria factor, dolphin. She hadn't been reincarnated as a special devil, which made sense. Even though Ko had a brief appearance in the original story, she wasn't particularly exceptional. The dolphin-type Gastria virus was far from being a notable strain among the many variations. Unlike Midori, who had an instinct for divination and could smell fate, Ko possessed no such talent. A normal devil, that was only natural. Ko continued to stare silently at Lynn, as if she was trying to memorize his face forever. Then, placing both hands over her stomach, she spoke calmly. I'm hungry. Lynn, why does this feel like I just adopted a stray cat? Shaking his head, he ordered someone to prepare food. He glanced at the crowded shelter, filled with lowly devil heads everywhere. His eye twitched. Can Mahiru even handle this? Even as devils, feeding over 4,000 hungry little girls was no simple task. Sometime later, Shina Mahiru collapsed onto the table, exhausted. Her hands were shaking. Even the spatula she was holding was smoking from overuse. Utaha couldn't help but sigh. Master, we can't keep this up forever. Mahiru was completely overwhelmed. The rest of the Familia had helped out, and they had barely managed to provide enough food. If this continued, Lynn fell in a deep thought. He needed a better logistics system. Though, honestly, the solution was simple. Train the Lolas. Instead of doing everything for them, it was better to teach them how to handle logistics themselves. After all, they were already devils. They had survived hardship, so they wouldn't complain about some extra work. For now, they could set up their own supply chain. But more importantly, they needed a bigger place. Just as Lynn was thinking about these, a message popped up in the Familia chat. Masiko. Master, I found a military base. From the looks of it, it should be large enough to serve as a temporary shelter. Masiko. There are plenty of supplies here, too. Even without scavenging, we should be able to sustain ourselves for a while. Masiko. Also, while searching for the base, I encountered some survivors. Masiko. Attached image. .jpg. Lynn glanced at the message Seiko had sent before finally opening the attached image. What he saw was a group of high school girls with brightly colored hair, and standing behind them a tall, dark-skinned woman carrying a sniper rifle. Oh, and also a pink-haired girl. Lynn raised an eyebrow. Minami Rika? As for the high school girls, he wasn't too familiar with them. Mieruko-chan Shizuka suddenly let out a surprised gasp. That's Rika. Hearing that name, Shina Mahiru Kusamaga Kaka Utaha. and the others exchanged looks. It wasn't unfamiliar to them. After all, Lynn's Familia had taken over her house in the apocalypse world. After thinking for a moment, Lynn sent a message. Sigma Man, that dark-skinned woman is Minami Rika. Bring all of them to the military base. Since they were already occupying her home, it was only fair to help her out now that they had met. As for the 4 other girls and the pink-haired one, it didn't really make a difference. One less, it wasn't a big deal. Besides, they were all girls. At the very least, they could help take care of the lowly devils he had just reincarnated. After receiving Lynn's reply, Masiko turned to Minami Rika and her group. Looks like my master has agreed to take you in. Let's go, I'll take you to the base. Oh, master, huh? Minami Rika adjusted the sniper rifle on her shoulder, giving Saeko a meaningful smirk, though beneath that smile was a hint of deep wariness. Minami Rika knew all too well Masiko was terrifying. She had personally watched Saeko unleash a single flying slash, not only wiping out every zombie on the street, but even slicing an entire building in half. Was that something a human could even do? And yet, she had seen it with her own eyes. No matter how unbelievable it was, no matter how shocked she felt, the reality was right in front of her. She exhaled deeply. Was following this woman really the right decision? And what kind of person could possibly be her master? The girls beside her didn't seem to overthink it as much as she did. Yay, we can all live together. A purple twin-tailed girl bounced around excitedly. The brown-haired girl beside her immediately grabbed her arm. Keep your voice down. You'll attract the zombies. Huh, but didn't Saeko already take care of all the zombies? Stop calling her by name so casually. Kurumi, you sure warm up to people fast. As the girls playfully bickered, none of them noticed the trace of concern in the pink-haired girl's eyes. Military base. Under Saeko's guidance, the group arrived at the base. Wow, it's huge. The high school girls all gasped in amazement. Looks like we can live here for a long time. But we should probably clear out first. Saeko drew her sword. With a controlled slash, she sent a flying blade of energy through the air. Despite its terrifying power, she made sure not to damage the base's infrastructure. No matter how many times I see it, it's still unbelievable. Saeko, you're definitely not human. Minami Rika clicked her tongue, then raised her sniper rifle. All right, I'll pitch in too. A short while later, the military base was completely cleared of zombies. Saeko didn't leave a single corner unchecked. Then she pulled out a pre-prepared coordinate device from Lynn and activated it. Within moments, a brilliant light flickered across the base. Lynn and Shizuka appeared out of thin air. What? Kurumi let out a startled scream. It's actual teleportation magic. Minami Rika was just as shocked. Her voice was laced with disbelief. Ever since the zombie apocalypse began, the world just keeps getting harder and harder to understand. Just as she was processing everything, her eyes suddenly widened. From behind Lynn, a massive blonde-haired man waved enthusiastically. Rika, long time no see. Chapter 86. Shizuka gets invited again. Apocalypse World, military base. Lynn inspected the facilities and supplies one more time before nodding in satisfaction. For now, a single military base like this should be enough to accommodate the cursed children from all of Tokyo. After setting this place as a new shelter, Lynn saw Shizuka catching up with Minami Rika, leaving him with nothing to do for the moment. So, he took the time to organize the results of his recent reincarnation event, where he brought over 4,000 lolas. He then began checking his progress. First, in terms of overall strength, his rank hadn't changed. He was still an ultimate class devil. However, he could feel his overall power increasing. Even though he remained an ultimate class devil, he was far beyond the level he was when he first reached this rank. As for new skills, most of them were gastria-related abilities, all of which had been integrated into his Gastria Factor Codex. Gastria Factor Codex, Factor Genome, in development. Gene Archive collected. Mole Factor, Hedgehog Factor. Gene Fusion, Dual Factor Fusion available. Factor assimilation can parasitize other living beings and implant a gastrious seed, turning them into puppets under the host's control. Note: incomplete features. Lynn narrowed his eyes. A new ability had been added to the Gastria Factor Codex. With a thought, Lynn tried to use the gastrious seed, and a dark purple-black organic mass floated before him. This seed has the spider factor? Lynn was slightly surprised. It seemed that the gastrious seed could now materialize the factors he had collected and grant them to others. However, anyone who received these factors would fall under his control. Lynn also felt that he could create gastrious seeds that weren't under his control. So, basically, could he now create new humans that possess gastria abilities, but without the virus itself? Lynn, doesn't seem very useful for the Familia. Maybe I can use it for trades in the future? A stable source of income for his Familia, perhaps? But for now, he had no idea what to trade or who to trade with. Oh well, better than nothing. Meanwhile, Shizuka had finished catching up with Rika. After hearing about Shizuka's experiences during this time, Rika was left speechless. She couldn't help but marvel at this dumb woman's insane luck. So, does that mean silly girls always have good fortune? Becoming a devil and gaining supernatural powers. Rika was momentarily lost in thought. She now understood the source of Seiko's strength. That's amazing. Ebi Suzuwa Kurumi's eyes sparkled with excitement. Can we become devils too? A/N from Gakkou, Gurashi School Live. Hearing this, Rika immediately perked up. Becoming a devil? She wouldn't mind that at all. Wait, doesn't becoming a devil mean joining his harem? Naoki Miki quickly shut Kurumi up, then stole a glance at Lynn, her face turning slightly red as her mind wandered. A harem? That's just too indecent. Meanwhile, Rika wasn't the least bit embarrassed. For an adult, decisions were made based on pros and cons. And from her perspective, joining Lynn's Familia as his woman or servant was nothing but a win. Not only would she gain supernatural power, but she could also escape this hellhole of a world and step into a higher realm. Besides, Lynn was exactly her type. And in this apocalypse, there probably weren't many men left. If she didn't follow Lynn, wouldn't she be single for the rest of her life? Sure, she could meet other men, but she had been picky for nearly 30 years. Joining Lynn's Familia was a solid deal. Unlike Miki, Rika had no hesitation. She turned to Shizuka and asked directly, "Hey Shizuka, can you ask your master if he's still accepting new people?" Shizuka blinked in confusion, then suddenly hugged Rika with a delighted expression, rubbing her face against Rika's chest. "That's awesome, Rika. We can be together again." "Miki." She looked at Rika in disbelief. "Just like that? You're giving yourself away so easily. What about a woman's dignity?" Nearby, Megumi Sakura gently patted Miki's head and smiled. "Miki, sometimes there's just no other choice." "Wait, even you, Megane?" "Miki." Megumi's gaze became slightly serious. "This world is already over. Don't you want to survive together with everyone?" "Of course I do," Miki blurted out before falling into silence. Yeah, wasn't this a stroke of luck? After all, this was the supernatural we were talking about. And judging by Saeko and Shizuka, this so-called master didn't seem so bad. All right, I get it. Miki gave up resisting. Ebi Suzuwa Kurumi hugged her tightly, comforting her. "It's okay, Miki. This way, we can all stay together forever." Hearing this, Miki chuckled. "That's right. At least, everyone gets to survive. And we'll all be together. Does no one care about our opinion?" Takeya Yuki and Wakase Yuri voiced their dissatisfaction. "So, Yuki, Yuri, do you want to come along?" Kurumi held out her hand toward them. "Of course. ×2. Yuri replied calmly. "Not like we have a choice. After all, this was an apocalypse. If given the chance to survive, who wouldn't take it?" Standing nearby, Saeko Busujima smiled. "Looks like Master just added 6 more beauties to his collection." A devil's hearing was excellent. Lynn and the others had heard their entire conversation loud and clear. Lynn simply shrugged, unfazed. More additions? Fine by him. At least they were easy on the eyes. Plus, he needed more people to take care of the devil Lolis. And one of them was a teacher surely be good at looking after others, right? Lynn had gained 6 new Familia members. Unfortunately, none of them turned into unique devils. Minami Rika gained the skill, firearm mastery, allowing her to instinctively use any gun she picked up and even push its capabilities to the limit. Her strength and endurance had also started improving gradually. As for the others, well, aside from Kurumi, none of them showed any particular talent. Even Kurumi only awakened a skill called combat stamina. Oh well, they'd make great support personnel, and they all seemed to enjoy life. Perfect for taking care of the devil Lolis. All 6 of them stood bare-skinned. Aside from Rika, the rest were overwhelmingly embarrassed, trying desperately to cover themselves. Rika, on the other hand, casually flipped her purple hair and leaned in as Lynn walked past. "Master, are you staying the night?" There was a certain gleam in her violet eyes, a mysterious allure hidden beneath. She was all woman. Turning around, Rika pressed her body against Lynn, her lips near his ear as she whispered, sending a warm breath across his skin. "Master, I'm clean, you know." She understood a man's preferences. This was her advantage. Lynn could feel her soft, supple figure pressing against him. He hesitated for a moment. A tanned, seductive Wani-san. A new experience wouldn't be bad. "Shizuka, want to join in?" Rika invited Shizuka with a playful smirk. Shizuka blinked in confusion. Why did this feel so familiar? She glanced between Chapter 87, Operation Devil Lowly Relocation Start. The next morning, as the morning light streamed in, Lynn gently pushed aside 2 soft bodies and sat up. In the end, as Rika's best friend, Shizuka Marikawa had agreed to join. She said it was for guidance. Since Rika lacked experience, she figured she could help guide her. Rika stirred awake as Lynn moved, wrapping her arms around his neck. Her sharp, cat-like eyes glinted with a teasing hint of amusement. Master, why not stay in bed a little longer?" she murmured sleepily. Lynn patted her head. Rika blinked, then instinctively started getting down as her face was about to reach his private brother. Lynn quickly caught her, sighing. She looked up at him, in confusion. "Master, you don't want to?" Lynn paused for a moment before loosening his grip slightly. "Let's handle business first." Rika chuckled softly, then obediently sat up, awaiting his instructions. As she moved, the blanket slipped off her shoulders, revealing her smooth, graceful figure. Lynn lifted a finger, and a dark purple-black crystal hovered at his fingertip. Rika hesitated, eyes narrowing slightly. "This is a gastria seed." Lynn didn't go into the details of gastria biology. Instead, he simply explained, "This crystal contains an eagle-type factor. It should suit you well." He hadn't expected the ability he acquired just last night from the Gastria Codex to come in handy so soon. 4 standard devils. He could now bestow them with a suitable gastria seed. Of course, he had no intention of controlling them. His peerage were his people. An eagle? Rika's eyes sparkled with excitement. Lynn nodded. "This eagle-type factor grants Eagle's Eye, which should enhance your sniping ability." He had recorded multiple eagle-based factors, but each factor granted unique abilities. Eagle's Eye, in particular, was perfect for Rika. "Master!" A hazy, sultry look flashed through Rika's sharp eyes. She absent-mindedly licked her lips. For some reason, she suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to serve her master in every way possible. Seeing her drifting into a strange state of mind, Lynn pressed the gastria seed into her body without hesitation. Rika gasped, her breath quickening as a mysterious power surged through her. Her violet eyes glowed as if a clear stream washed away the fog clouding her vision. A few moments later, the sensation faded. Rika's pupils contracted slightly as she looked out the window, murmuring, "I can see so much farther, and my ability to track moving targets has improved tremendously." Now, she could catch even the smallest details in rapid motion. Satisfied, Lynn turned her body slightly to examine her blessing status. Rika Minami. Rank, low-class devil. Race, Devil. Master, Lynn Valifer. Stats: Strength, I0. Agility, I0. Endurance, I2. Magic, I0. Unique skills: Firearms Mastery and Gastria Factor, Eagle. Firearms Mastery. Expert in handling firearms. Strength increases gradually over time. Endurance increases gradually over time. Gastria Factor, Eagle. Eagle's Eye. Enhanced vision and dynamic motion tracking. As expected, a new skill, Gastria Factor, Eagle, had appeared in her status. Lynn wasn't surprised. He copied her updated blessing and handed it to her. Rika took it, her excitement obvious. She had been slightly disappointed yesterday, thinking her abilities were too ordinary. But today Master had rewarded her. Feeling grateful, Rika set down the paper and eagerly slipped back under the covers. Lynn exhaled slightly. To his right, Shizuka Marikawa was still sleeping soundly. 2 hours later, Naoki, Miki, and the others stared at Lynn, Rika, and Shizuka with complicated expressions. T3 people. Their minds struggled to process what had just happened. Seiko Busujima, on the other hand, seemed completely unfazed. She had already gotten used to it. Occasionally, she was even one of the leading stars in these situations. Lynn glanced at the group and casually said, "Take off your clothes." "Yeah." Chaos erupted instantly. W8, it's our turn now. Even the usually composed Wakase Yuri couldn't maintain her cool. "H here." Naoki Miki stammered. Sakura Megumi's body wobbled slightly, her face heating up at an alarming rate. She looked like she was about to pass out. "Lynn, I just need to give you all a permanent buff." Rika had already helped him earlier, so Lynn wasn't in urgent need of their services right now. Oh, I see." After his explanation, they all let out sighs of relief. But for some reason, an odd, indescribable feeling still lingered between them. They exchanged glances, their eyes filled with unspoken emotions. Once they had removed their clothes, Lynn went around and implanted a gastria seed into each of them. "Whoa, this is amazing." Ebi Suzawa Kurumi tested her new ability, her expression one of pure amazement. She had already awakened a unique skill before, but it was more of a passive buff rather than an active power. Besides, who would ever complain about getting more skills? Since Kurumi mainly fought with a shovel, Lynn granted her the Gastria Seed, Rhino Beetle. Her ability became Gastria Factor, Rhino Beetle. Power Arm increases energy transfer efficiency up to 98%. For Takeyuki, he gave her the Gastria Seed, Red Fox. Gastria Factor, Red Fox. Geomagnetic Perception allows her to sense objects within her range using Earth's magnetic field. Wakase Yuri received Gastria Factor, Sloth. Metabolic Efficiency optimizes energy consumption, allowing her to function at peak performance with minimal exhaustion. Megumi Sakura got Gastria Factor, Mongoose. Progressive Teaching improves adaptability and learning speed over time. And finally, Naoki Miki, Gastria Factor, Tibetan Antelope. Environmental Adaptation enhances survival abilities in various conditions. After updating their blessing, the girls were all excited to test their new abilities. Seeing this, Lynn didn't bother stopping them. Instead, he walked toward the center of the military base. Gathering his magic, he spread it across the entire base. In an instant, every last trace of the zombies' rotting bodies, bloodstains, and filth was completely purged from the area. The entire base was spotless. This was one of the most convenient spells in Lynn's arsenal, and he used it quite frequently. Maybe you should look into a magic spell that could automatically cook food. That way, he could prepare meals for the devil Lolas without any hassle. Although, if given the choice, he'd much rather eat food cooked by Shina Mahiru, his little fallen angel chef. After tidying up the base, Lynn activated a dimensional gate. Operation Devil Loli Relocation Start. Megumi Sakura nervously watched the glowing portal. Lynn had already explained to her what was coming. The ones arriving would be young girls, around 10 years old, who had never received a proper education, meaning their learning and upbringing would be her responsibility. The pressure was immense. After confirming with Shina Mahiru through their group chat, Lynn turned his gaze back to the gate. Figures began stepping through one by one. Leading them was Senju, the girl with the dolphin factor. Wow, this really is another world,